Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your man Soul. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over the Feral Druid tanking talent build setup for Cataclysm Classic. Before we get started, if you like what you see and you want to see more, consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel grow. Alright, enough of that. Let's get into it. So if you've never played Cata before, I'm going to do a quick TLDR on how the talent trees work. Coming from Wrath or TBC or Vanilla, like the talent trees have been shortened. I guess if you're coming from Vanilla, you're kind of used to short talent trees. So Cataclysm talent trees are short as well. However, when you hit level 10, you unlock the specializations just like you would any other X pack. But when you unlock the specializations, you get a couple different passives plus an ability exclusive to that spec. So because we're specking into Feral Combat, we get Mangle, we get the passives of Aggression, we get access to Vengeance when we're in bear form, we get Feral Instinct, and our mastery when we hit level 85 will be the Savage Defender mastery. And I'll just quickly mouse over these so you can see. So Mangle is pretty much the same. Aggression increases our attack power by 25%. Vengeance, honestly, Vengeance requires its own video, right? Because there's a lot going on with Vengeance, but essentially you get attack power when you take damage up to a certain percentage of your maximum health. Feral Instinct is really just for prowling, and then the mastery is Savage Defender, which is basically, it improves your Savage defense. It makes your Savage defense a lot stronger. But that's really it for the talent trees. Let's actually get into the build. So as you can see here, I have the completed build for the Feral Combat tanking Druid, and there's a little bit of flexibility, but like I said before in the beginning of the video, there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to Cataclysm talent trees. So when you're in the Cataclysm talent tree, you cannot subspec until you complete the requirements of your selected specialization. So as an example, because we selected Feral Combat, we are not allowed, actually I'll reset it here. We are not allowed to spec into the balance tree or the restoration tree until we complete the requirements of the Feral Combat tree. And that really means just spending 30 talents into the talent tree, and then you unlock the ability to subspec. So you can't select anything in here. You can't select anything in here until you fill out the Feral Combat tree. Alright, so let's get started with the talents. The first one is Feral Swiftness. This is almost exactly the same as the Wrath of the Lich King version. It increases your movement speed in cat form and increases your dodge chance while in cat and bear form. I will say the slight caveat to this talent is that it increases your movement speed regardless of you being indoor or outdoor, which is a really good quality of life change in my opinion. But yeah, we're here for the bear stuff, so it increases your dodge chance by 4%, which is a lot of avoidance. So there you have it. In addition, it also gives you your dash and your stampeding roar, which is like kind of like a group dash. 100% chance to remove snares. So as if Druids needed another snare removal, I guess, but Blizzard felt that way, so there you go. The next one is Fury. Now this one got removed from the restoration tree and got placed in the Feral Combat tree, which I think is a good quality of life change, because who wanted to subspec for Fury? Like, you really used it to get the rage, not really for Resto stuff. But anyway, it's gone from a 5-point talent to a 3-point talent, and it basically, again, does the exact same thing. When you shift into bear form, you get 10 rage, and that's really what we're using it for. It does some cat stuff, but again, we're here for the bear stuff. The next talent is new. It is Fury Swipe. So when you auto attack while in cat or bear form, you have a 15% chance to cause a Fury Swipe, dealing 310% weapon damage. This effect cannot occur more than once every 3 seconds. So basically, it's kind of like a mini Wind Fury, if you will, right? You have a 15% chance just to proc a free attack. Pretty good for single target threat. Next, we have Primal Fury. This is also kind of the same as what you've seen in previous iterations of the game. This gives you a 100% chance to generate 5 rage when you get a crit, or an extra combo point if you crit in cat form. This was the talent that allowed Druids to generate rage while not tanking. Like, it's kind of notorious in like TBC because warriors always had a problem generating rage while they're not tanking, or while they're not being attacked, I should say. Whereas Druids never really had that problem. This is the talent for that reasoning. So Primal Fury is still pretty good. Max it out. Next, we have Feral Aggression. So this kinda is more of a cat DPS style talent, but I take it anyway because while it increases the damage of your ferocious bite by 10%, it also causes your fairy fire to apply 3 stacks, which is really, really good. So you definitely want to get this talent as well. The next we have is King of the Jungle. So while you're enraged in bear form, your damage is increased by 15%, and your Tiger's Fury ability will also restore 60 energy. Again, we're here for the bear stuff. So a 15% damage amp on enrage is pretty solid. It's pretty solid for both damage and snap threat. So I think King of the Jungle is a near mandatory. It's not fully mandatory, but I think it's a near mandatory thing. We're going to talk about flexible talent points. I believe this is a talent that you could kind of flex in and out of. Like, you don't have to do 3 out of 3. I choose to for this build, but you can go 1 out of 3 if you wanted to get some other stuff, but we'll talk about that. The next one is Feral Charge. This is the same Feral Charge that you're probably used to if you play Bear. So nothing really to fully explain here. You know what it is. The accompanying talent, however, is new. It is Stampede. So when you do use Feral Charge in Bear form, you get a 30% melee haste buff for 8 seconds. It's a pretty substantial buff. This is also a flexible talent. You don't need Stampede. I happen to think it's pretty good again for that initial snap threat, but you don't need Stampede. And again, we're going to talk about flexible talents, but this is a pretty good talent in my opinion. The next talent we have is Thick Hide. You know, increases your armor contribution. You guys know what that does. So it makes us more tanky. However, it also reduces the chance that we'll be crit by 6%, so effectively giving us a crit immunity. As you can see in this tree here, we don't have survival of the fittest anymore, so Thick Hide is kind of taking over for that role. The next talent is the former Capstone talent. That's the leader of the pack. So this basically still does the same thing. It gives your party or raid 5% crit. However, you'll probably notice that the improved leader of the pack add-on effect or add-on talent isn't in this tree anymore. And that's because they kind of merged it into this talent alone. Now, it doesn't affect everyone in your party or raid anymore. It only affects you now, but that effect is still in the game. So when you crit, when you're in bear form, you heal for 4% of your health, and you get 8% of your mana. It can occur every 6 seconds. It sucks that it doesn't affect everyone anymore, but it still is in the game. I guess it's better than removing it completely, so it just affects you. So there you have it. The next talent I have is Primal Madness. So for bears, this causes your Enrage and Berserk to instantly generate 12 rage, which is just a nice resource boost. This is a very flexible talent, so you don't need Primal Madness. I'm choosing to take it just because I'm trying to fully front load my damage and my threat, so I choose to take Primal Madness, but you don't have to. The next talent we have is Survival Instincts. This is the big one. So this used to give us a maximum health increase, but now it's just a shield wall ability. It reduces all damage taken by 50% for 12 seconds. It's only usable in your animal forms, but obviously if you're planning on tanking, you take this talent. The next talent is one of my favorites. It's called Nature Reaction. It reduces the damage you take while in bear form by 18%, while also increasing your dodge chance while in bear form by 6%, and you generate 3 rage every time you dodge while in bear form. So it just does a lot of DR and avoidance, and it causes you to generate resources. So I love this talent. Can't get enough of it. The next talent we have is Rend and Tear. Increases the damage done by your Maul and Shred on bleeding targets by 20%, and increases the critical strike chance of your Ferocious Bite on bleeding targets by 25%. So this is kind of like a hybrid talent. So basically this increases your Maul on bleeding targets. So this is a really good talent, and it's connected to an also equally powerful talent. And that talent is Pulverize. So this deals 60% weapon damage plus an additional amount for each of your lacerate applications on the target, and increases your critical strike chance by 3% for each lacerate application consumed. So basically, when you stack up lacerate, you use Pulverize, it'll consume the lacerate, but it'll give you a buff and deal more damage dependent on how many lacerate stacks you had. Really good ability, really good for high amounts of single target damage, so definitely don't skip this one. And the Capstone talent Berserk. Your lacerate periodic damage has a 50% chance to refresh the cooldown on Mangle and make it cost no rage. In addition, when activated, this ability causes your Mangle to hit up to 3 targets and have no cooldown. So this is really good for both single target and cleave, right? So you want to use it when, let's say you're in a dungeon, you want to cleave up some things and gather some things up. You'll be hitting 3 targets with Mangle, which is really strong. Or if you're in a raid and you're like doing 2 target cleave, or you're doing council fights, stuff like that, or you have a high priority ad, but you still want to deal damage to the boss, it's really good. I don't think Berserk really needs an explanation, but I just wanted to run it down real quick. So now that we're done with the Feral Combat tree, let's jump into the Restoration tree and we can talk about the sub-talents. Alright, moving on to the Restoration tree, the first talent is Heart of the Wild. This increases your stamina while you're in bear form by 6%, while also increasing your intellect by 6%. And if you shift into cat form, your attack power is increased by 10%. Really good talent, really good hybrid talent. You need it, you want it, take it. The next talent I would definitely choose is Natural Shapeshifter. This reduces the mana cost of all shapeshifting by 20% and increases the duration of Tree of Life. So we really don't care about the Natural Shapeshifter talent in and of itself. It's what it's linked to is what we really want. And I see that the icon is broken, but I'm going to mouse over it anyway. So we really want Master Shapeshifter, and while in bear form, it increases our physical damage by 4%, and if we were to shift into cat form, let's say we're waiting on a taunt, we're going to do some damage, it increases our critical strike chance by 4%. So you really want Master Shapeshifter, and you need to put 2 points into Natural Shapeshifter to get it, so that's where we want. And then our final 3 talents go into Perseverance. It just reduces all spell damage taken by 6%. Pretty decent all around, like just a flat 6% reduced magic damage is pretty good, so I say take it. And that's really it for the pretty much the baseline bear setup. Now, I do want to go back into the Feral Combat tree and talk about the optional talents that you could take, because you don't have to use this setup. I want to make that perfectly clear. You don't have to use this talent build point for point. You can deviate. So let's talk about some deviations. The first thing I think you can kind of remove points out of is Primal Madness here. This is not required. I guess I have to kind of destroy my build actually before. Yep, all right, there we go. So you don't need Primal Madness. I took it because I like the 12 rage you instantly get when you use Enrage or Berserk, and you're going to be using those abilities damn near on rotation. So this is like the first optional one. What you would take in place of this, there's a couple options. The first option, I think the most notable one to me, is Infected Wounds. So this causes your Shred, Maul, Ravage, and Mangle to apply the Infected Wounds debuff, which reduces their movement speed and their attack speed. So basically, this is the same debuff as Frost Fever, right? Except the movement speed part. So if you don't have anyone who can apply the attack speed slow, this is probably going to happen more traditionally in a 10-man, not really a 25-man, then I would pick up Infected Wounds over the Primal Madness talent. Another option is the Brutal Impact talent. So this increases the stun duration of your bash, but it also reduces the cooldown of Skull Bash by 50 seconds when you max out this talent. So effectively making Skull Bash like a 10-second cooldown. So it'll become like a really fast interrupt. This is again another talent that you can take like in a 10-man where you might not have access to a whole bunch of melee to do a full interrupt rotation. Or maybe in 25-man, if some of your interrupters are just not quite getting it, you can take Brutal Impact. But this is another optional talent that you can take. The third optional talent I would say is Endless Carnage, but I really wouldn't take this if you're operating as like a full-time main tank. I would only take this if you sometimes like tank and DPS type deal, because all it does is increase your rake duration, which is really good when you're not tanking, right? When you're in cat form and you're waiting for your turn, or you're just like DPSing a fight, so to speak, and you don't want to fully change your spec again. Like, it's pretty good for that. However, you are missing some key talents to be a real cat. Like, if you don't have like Blood in the Water, then it's going to be a little challenging. But again, you could take Endless Carnage to get the full 6 seconds. But again, these are just options for you to take. I chose to take Primal Madness, but I could see myself running Infected Wounds if necessary. So this is not something that, you have to hold down to a T just because I said so. All right, now let's take a look at the glyphs, and you'll see, because this is Cataclysm, we have a new glyph category called Prime Glyphs, which was essentially just what major glyphs were in Wrath of the Lich King. So let's take a look at the ones that I recommend. So I definitely recommend the Berserk one. So this increases the duration of Berserk by 10 seconds. So this is a really good glyph in my opinion, and I definitely don't think you should skip it. The next glyph is Lacerate. This increases the critical strike chance of your Lacerate by 5%. So this is just another good one for some damage that you want to do. And then the final one is Mangle, which increases your damage done by your Mangle by 10%. This goes really well if you're using like King of the Jungle and you have that enraged damage amp and you have Berserk and you have the Glyph of Berserk. Like, your Mangles are just going to be ripping through people. But if we look at the other glyphs, there are some flexible things you can do. Like, if you're dipping into like cat, let's say you're not a full-time bear, you're like a half-time bear, or you only tank when there's like a 3-tank requirement or whatever, you can see some of the cat glyphs that you can take. You can take Tiger's Fury, you can take Rip, you can take Savage Roar. But if you're just a bear through and through, I think these three are probably the only ones that you really care about as far as your prime glyphs are concerned. Next, we go to major glyphs. Major glyphs are kind of like the utility glyphs, in my opinion. They do have pretty good functional uses, but they're not like damage amps. So let's take a look at them. So the first one I have is Feral Charge. So this reduces the cooldown of your Feral Charge by 1 second if you're in bear, 2 seconds if you're in cat. This, again, just makes it so you can have access to another charge again. And if you're running Stampede, you'll have more access to that 30% melee haste that you get from it. So I think Feral Charge is a pretty solid option here. The next one is Fairy Fire. This increases the range of your Fairy Fire by 10 yards. A little bit more quality of life. You can pull from further distance. You can grab adds from a further distance. So I think this is a pretty good one too. And then the final one is Maul. Your Maul will hit one additional target for half of the damage. Again, another quality of life if you're taking two things or you're in a dungeon run and you're just picking up adds. This will help out a little bit. But if we look at the major glyphs, there are, some other ones you can definitely take. You don't have to take the ones that I lined out. I think probably one of the more notable ones is like the Frenzied Regeneration glyph. While Frenzied Regeneration is active, healing effects are 30% stronger on you, but it won't actually heal you. It won't convert your rage into health. So you kind of got to like pick and choose to see if that one is better than the three that I recommend. The next one I would say is probably one that you could flex in and out is the Rebirth one. This causes anyone you battle res to come back with 100% health. That's obviously really good quality of life, because if someone comes back with like, I think, 20%, they're more susceptible to dying. So coming back at full health is more of a safety net. So you can consider Rebirth as well. And as far as minor glyphs, you really can just pick whatever you want. The only one I would probably come with a high recommendation from my end is Challenging Roar, just reducing the cooldown of your AoE taunt by 30 seconds. The other ones you can kind of just pick what you want, to be quite honest with you. If you don't want your battle res to require a reagent, you can pick that one. If you want to be a tree and have access to tree inform, it doesn't really do anything, to be quite honest with you. It just makes you a tree. You can do that. You can pick up the aquatic glyph for increased swim speed, but yeah, none of this stuff is really going to make or break your gameplay. So that's why I left those two empty, and I just recommended Challenging Roar. So that's it for the build, guys. I had a lot of fun doing this. I do plan on doing all of the tanks. I started the Blood DK one a while ago. That's on my channel now if you want to go back and see the Blood DK one. I just kind of got caught up with SOD and other stuff that I kind of put the Cataclysm stuff to the back burner. But I'm definitely going to do all of the tanks. And I might even do the healers as well. I don't know. We'll see. But if you like what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel grow. And let me know in the comments if you feel like this is a correct talent build. If you feel like, nope, I got something wrong, I should always pick infected wounds. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, y'all been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.